My name is Jon Collins. I'm Deputy Director at the Police Foundation, which is an independent policing think tank. I think in terms of criminal justice, the jury's still out on payment by results. It's early days for most of the pilots that have been set up as part of this current government's move towards payment by results in the criminal justice system. I think there have been some positive things. It can drive innovation. It can make sure that service providers focus on outcomes rather than on processes. But in terms of evidence as to whether or not it's worked to reduce reoffending, I think we just don't know yet. Some of the results from Project Daedalus, the Mayor of London's payment by results project, have been, I think it's fair to say, mixed. But I don't think that on that basis you can write off all the different models of payment by results that have been tried out by the current government. So I think it's a case of wait and see. I think one of the really interesting questions about payment by results is what is the result that we're actually looking to achieve through the criminal justice system. One of the big questions about the criminal justice system historically has been what its primary goal or purpose is. I think one of the good things about payment by results is it focuses attention on reducing reoffending, which I think is a really good thing. But one of the outstanding questions is how you actually go about measuring reoffending most effectively. At the moment, the government seems to favour largely a yes or no measure. Have people reoffended or haven't they? While that's relatively straightforward to think about and quite easy to measure, relatively speaking, it doesn't necessarily take into account whether or not people have reduced their likelihood of reoffending, so slowed down their offending as they move towards moving away from crime and turning their lives around. So I think it'd be really good if, through some of the pilots that the government are currently running on payment by results, they try out different ways of measuring whether or not people are reducing their reoffending or stopping offending, so that they can see what works best in making sure that the right effort is put into helping people to turn their lives around. I think in terms of criminal justice, what you'd hope that payment by results would do would be to focus the attention of service providers on the outcome that they're trying to achieve, on what it is they're actually trying to do, rather than on meeting arbitrary process targets or putting people through an arbitrary set of steps so they can demonstrate that they've met the requirements of a contract. What they're actually trying to do is focus attention on achieving results, and through doing that, hopefully they put attention and money behind giving people the support they need to turn their lives around. So I think there are potentially positive outcomes there, and the idea certainly is that it will help drive innovation in terms of helping service providers think of new ways to help people to stop reoffending. I think that you would hope that payment by results would help to focus attention on innovation, but there's a risk that people will fall back on tried and tested work that maybe doesn't deliver all that it could, but they hope will deliver enough to get them paid. I think there's also a risk that providers will budget for failure. They will assume that they won't, from a planning point of view, they'll assume they won't get the payment that comes with the results. So they'll try and deliver services on the cheap, and that may lead to lower quality services and services that don't do as much as they could to help people turn their lives around. I think there's also a real risk about pushing smaller providers out of the market. The whole idea of payment by results is that it requires organisations to put their money where their mouth is, to invest money in hoping that they will deliver reductions in reoffending. And that's all very well, but if organisations don't have the money to upfront to deliver services until they receive the payment, that can make it very difficult for them to get involved. So I'd hope that, again, as the government develops payment by results and as they roll it out as pilots move on, they think quite innovatively about how they can support smaller organisations to get involved in a way that isn't potentially financially ruinous for them. I think that there's too much invested in payment by results now for it not to be continued to use in the near future. And one of the areas we're really interested in at the Police Foundation is there's a sense from the Home Office that they hope incoming police and crime commissioners, post their election in November this year, will use payment by results to commission crime reduction and crime prevention services. I think that's a very challenging area. I think it'll be much more difficult to think about what measures you'd use and how you'd judge whether or not they've been successful in things like crime prevention. But I think that will be one of the next areas in the criminal justice and crime reduction field where you may start to see payment by results being used.